Hey guys, quick heads up before I start the video. The link down below takes you to my Patreon, where you can download the project files for this video. Also gain access to my premium tutorials and in-depth courses where we build games together from start to finish. Check out my Patreon below, gain direct access to years of experience so that you can start working on your dream game tomorrow. Hello everybody and welcome back to a new episode of my multiplayer Bean Battle Royale tutorial series. So in the last episode we set up the actual blue zone so that we can have the typical Battle Royale blue zone that shrinks as time goes on and brings players more together. And in this episode we're actually going to focus on something completely different. In this episode we're going to be making the character customization. So if we take a look here inside of our assets folder, head over to character, then accessories, which is now a new folder. Then over here we see that we got 4 new static meshes that are going to be the accessories for our character. So we got a cone, a hard hat, a party hat, and a Viking hat. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to be handling the data for these accessories for the character customization. So if we head over to our blueprint folder, head over to data, then we're going to make a new folder here, and we're going to call this, let's call it character customization. And then we're going to put the pickup items into a folder as well. So we're going to make a new folder and call it pickup items. So these two guys, they're going to go in here. And then we're going to open up this folder. And then over here, we are going to be declaring a structure for our appearance, for our character customization that we can then use inside of a data table. And then using that data table, we can easily display the available customization inside of a widget where the player can then select what type of hat he or she would like to equip. And then once the player actually spawns inside of the map, then the character can also initialize itself with that data to set up the correct hat on the actual head of the bean basically. So what we're going to do here is right click and then we're going to go over to blueprints and then click on structure. Call this as underscore and let's call this something like let's say appearance item. So this is an appearance item structure. So if we open this up, then the way that we want to format this is that first we want to have a string. Now this is going to be the ID. Then next up we want to have a name. So we add another variable, which is a name also of the string type. And then the last one here is going to be of the static mesh type. So we type in static mesh, scroll down, then we find it here. Then we want to get our object reference. And then over here, we want to type in static mesh. Hit save, go to defaults, make sure everything is cleared out, and then hit save again. Here we go. Then next up, we want to right click, go to miscellaneous, click on data table, and over here we want to then select our structure, so s and then underscore appearance item. Hit OK, and call this the DT, so data table underscore appearance items. If we open this guy up, then we can basically start to make our data. Okay, so for the first one, we are going to click here on add, and then we're gonna split this out a little bit. So if you just drag it out like this, then this row name, we're just gonna call it 1. We're gonna give it an ID of 1. Now the name, so let's see here, because yeah, let's see. So the first one is going to be our, let's say, Viking hat. So the name should then be Viking hat. And let's quickly check here. So we got cone hat, hard hat, party hat. Okay. So then the second one, we're just giving an ID of 2. So this could be cone hat. And then here we can type in cone. There we go. Then the third one is like this. So ID 3. So if we type in hat, then I can see. So the third one can be our party hat. So then the name is party hat. Like this, and then the last one is ID 4, and that is going to be our hard hat, so hard hat. There we go. So we got 4 items in here now, Viking hat, cone hat, party hat, hard hat. Now typically you would also, so in the main menu when you select the hats basically to put them on your character, then typically you would also have a format here inside of the structure that you can attach a texture. So then you can attach basically an image to the item, because obviously players need to know what they click. But I don't have render images of these guys, I believe, so let me double check that. Yeah, no, so I don't have any render images of these hats, so we're gonna just stick to this data. So we only have an ID, a name, and then the actual static mesh for that item. So next up, we need to, in the main menu is where we're going to do this. So we're going to go over to our main menu, which is over here. And then next up, we're going to need to, in the main menu here, add a new button. And we're going to call that something like appearance. So if we open up our widgets, let's go to main menu. Then we can make a new folder, call it appearance. And then we can also open up the main menu because we need this one in a little bit. So, well, first of all, let's actually in the main menu make the new button. So the button here, we're just going to duplicate it, rename it to appearance button. There we go. So this is our appearance button. Then we want to get the text. We want to change it to appearance. And then it can be a little bit less big, so we can make it something like 20. And then we can put it to the side like this. So appearance is not as important, kind of, but that's just, so appearance, we just in the design, make it a bit smaller and a bit to the side like this. But I mean, the design part, that's all up to you guys. I'm just gonna show you how to code something like this. So for the appearance, we're gonna get the clicked event here. And then we're also going to navigate in our widget switcher, which we set up in another episode, to a new index here. So for the appearance, we're going to simply go to index 3. And then in index 3 is where we will be adding our widget, which we're going to be making right now. So inside of the appearance folder, we're going to right click, user widget, widget blueprint, user widget, call it WB underscore appearance. Open this up. So in here, we are going to get a little border, and then we can say that we want the same color as what we used for these other panels here. So if I find the create game panel and then click on the border, then we're going to copy this color. So go back here. So for the border, we're going to paste this color. Here we go. We're going to set fill on screen to desired on screen to see our actual size. And then we're going to put a little, let's see, a little vertical box in here. Now with the vertical box selected, we're going to set the padding all around to be like 20. Then we're going to drag some text in here. And this text, we want it to be about as big as this create game text. So that is, let's see, font size 24. Okay, so that's just the standard font size. This panel, we're going to call it appearance. Hit compile and save. Then we also want to get our little back button. So this back button from the previous one that we made, we're just going to hit Control copy. And then we're going to wrap the whole border with a vertical box. And then inside of this vertical box, we're going to paste our back button. Now, for those of you that missed that episode, if you go to user created, we made ourselves a base button class, this one, and that's basically what this back button is, but then with a nice font size here. So this, we simply keep calling it back. Then we need to have some spacing in between here. So the spacing is 15 down apparently. So with the border selected here, we're gonna do 15 on the bottom. Hit compile, save. Then we can close this create game widget, and then we want to get ourselves a little scroll box. So the scroll box is gonna go inside of this vertical box. So we're gonna put it in here. Now we want some padding in between here. So select the text and put like 15 down. And then this scroll box, we're going to rename it to items underscore scroll box. And then click variable is true, compile, save. Then next up, we're going to be making the children that are the actual items that the player can equip. So if we go over to widgets, user widget, do widget blueprint, appearance, item. So this will be the actual item that the player can then click and equip. So for this item, we're going to keep it very simple. We're simply going to get a button, and then we're going to rename it to only be named button. And then we're going to put some text in here. Now the text should not be 24, but let's say 16. We then want some more padding all around. So let's do something like 8 padding. And then the text here is going to be the item name. So this we can call it item name underscore text. Promote that to variable. Then the button itself, we can style it a little bit. So we can simply change the background color to something bluish. So let's do, or actually let's do something, something purplish like this. That's fine. Hit compile, save. Then with the button selected, we're gonna scroll all the way down and click on the on-clicked event. So the only events that we need are event construct and the onClicked. So whenever we construct this item here, the appearance item, then we basically want to set our name here. So we're going to go in set text, just like this. And then for the variables here, we're going to add the ID of this item. So this is going to be item ID as a new variable, make it of the string type. Then click instance editable, expose on spawn, hit compile, save. The item ID, we're going to get it into the graph. We're then going to right click, type in data table row, get data table row, this one, hook it up, get your appearance data table, plug this into the ID over here. Then out of the row here comes our data for this item. So for the item data, we plug that into here. So the name goes into this one. Hit compile, save. So there we go for now. Then if we go back into the appearance widget over here, then we can go to the graph. Then with the item scroll box selected, we're going to drag it in here. Cut this away and this one. So we only need event construct. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out of here, typing get data table row names, and then the data table is going to be our appearance items. Then we're going to type in get data table row, this one, also the appearance items data table. We're going to hold F and left click to get a for each loop. If you can't find it that way, you can also right click, type in for each loop and get it this way if you just click it here. So out of all of the available rows in the appearance data table, we're going to plug them straight into here. Out of here then comes our data basically. So we're going to split this structure and then we're going to type in create widget. Now the widget that we want to create is the appearance item that asks for an ID. So if we hook this up, then the ID goes into here. And then these widgets need to be added to our item scroll box as a child. So that's this item scroll box, right guys? This one over here. So here we do add child. And then these guys go into here. There we go. And then just to be sure, we're going to put all of this to the right, get the item scroll box once more. And at the beginning, we're going to type in clear children. So even if you put some placeholder stuff inside of the designer here to preview what it looks like, then you can still clear it this way. Then we're going to hit compile and save, go back to our main menu widget, and then we're going to be dragging it into this widget switcher. And then if we open up here the user created, then we're going to find our appearance widget, just drag it into the widget switcher. So that one is over here. We're going to hit the middle and the middle, hit compile and save. Then we're going to go back into the appearance widget, go to the designer, click on the back button, go all the way down, click on the onClicked. And then we're going to make a new dispatcher and call this onClicked appearance. So the onClicked appearance is going to go in here. And actually it's onClicked appearance and then it's like back. So when we press the back button. So that goes in here. Then in the main menu with the appearance selected, we can then see our dispatch event over here. Select that, hook that up over here to go back to index 0. Hit compile save. Let's test it out. So if we click here on appearance, we then see all of our items from the data table. So we see the appearance hat, the cone hat, party hat, heart hat. Now, if this were any more items, it would just keep scrolling infinitely. So what we have to do is that we have to predefine a size for this, and then the scroll box will take action from there. But before we do that, if we hit back, we see that we actually go back here. So that works. So let's go back into our appearance widget, designer, and then we're going to select the border. We're going to wrap it with a size box. And for the width, we're going to do something like 300. For the height, we can predefine the size of like 450, something like that. Or you could do 400 by 450. I think that looks nice. Hit compile, save. Then go into your border to find your scroll box and then click on fill so that it automatically fills. Hit compile, save, and hit play. Let's try that out. Yeah, so this now doesn't refresh. So if you want that to refresh, you're going to have to restart your project real quick. Okay, so I restarted the project. Let's hit play again, click on appearance. So there we go. Now we see that we got the new size. Now all we need to do is that we need to give these children some spacing so we can have the appearance items have some space. So for that, we're going to quickly locate our appearance items again, these guys. We're going to wrap them with a size box, and then with the button selected, we're going to click on padding, and then the bottom padding, let's say that we want 10 in between. Or 12. Let's do 12 in between. Hit compile, save, test it out. So now if we would have any more items that would reach the bottom, then automatically our scroll bar will start to appear. So now we somehow need to see which hat we actually select. So if we select the Viking hat, for example, then we want to see something here that displays that this is the selected one. So for that, we're going to go into our appearance item over here, and we're going to have to make a selected state. So let's say that if the button is selected, that we then change the background color to a different color, so let's say green or something when they are selected, and otherwise this purple color. So we're going to make two functions here. So under functions, click set underscore selected, and then do another one and call it set underscore unselect. And then for the unselect, like I said, we're going to drag in the button, and then we're going to say set background color. So if this one is not selected, then the background color should be that purple color. So if we go to the designer, copy the code here for the color, go in here, click it, paste the color in here. Then we're going to copy this logic, go back to our selected function here. And then this one here, we're going to set it to, let's do something like green and then a bit darker green. There we go. Hit compile, save. So how does it work when selecting a button? Well, the first thing that we're going to do whenever we click a button is that we're going to do get all widgets of class, and the class is going to be our appearance item, not on the top level, so turn that off. Now for each of these, so we're going to hold F, left click together for each loop. For each of these, we're going to say unselect. And then for this one that we clicked, so that's this one, so off of the complete, we're then going to say select. So we're going to drag in this one and do select. Hit compile, save. Let's test that out. We go to appearance over here. We can then select the Viking hat, select the cone hat or the party hat, and then we basically have ourselves a little selection system right now. So whatever one I click is the one that is green. Even if I go back and here again, we see that one. So now we're going to have to work with actual data to make sure that we can actually equip a hat. And then even the next time when we quit the game and start the game again, we still want to have that same data that we had last time. So we still want to see which hat we actually had selected. And we also need to have that save game data for when we transition from the main menu into the gameplay level. Then the character needs to be able to read a save game file so that it can basically read what kind of data it was set to last. So if we head over here to the main menu, then go into blueprints, then here we're going to be creating a new folder and we're going to call it save game. Now we open this one up, we right click, we click here on blueprint class, all classes, and over here we type in save game. Then we get this one, open it up, and then we call it BGS, so blueprint, and then we call it BSG, so blueprint save game underscore. Let's see, appearance. So this is our appearance save game. We open this one up. And then in here, well, we only have hat appearance. So typically you would have like a structure, and then in that structure you would define the IDs that your character currently has. So you would basically save the ID of the hat, and then the ID of the torso, and then the ID of the backpack item. But since we only have one item, we can simply do a variable here and then click here on string. And then what we're going to save here is our hat underscore ID. So this is hat ID, and by default it's set to nothing. That's all we need to do in here. Then we close this, and then we're going to go over to our function library, and then we're going to be creating some general functions here for saving and loading our appearance save files. So if we click here on function, then the first one we're going to call it load appearance. We're going to put this into the category of appearance. And then the next one, we're going to call it save appearance. And this one also goes in our category appearance. So for load appearance, we're going to do does save game exist? For the slot name, we're going to call it appearance. And then in the case that it exists, then we're going to say load save game from slot. Now the slot is yet again going to be our appearance slot. And then out of here, we're then going to do cast to let's say BSG appearance. So then we're going to cast to our save game. And then out of this cast here, we're going to drag and get our, whatever we called it. So head ID. There we go. Then we're going to click on the function here and then click on outputs to get an output like this. So what we want to output in this case is our head ID over here. But we also want to say whether or not it was a success. So we're going to add a boolean here and call it success question mark. So in the case that we have a save game and that the cast didn't fill, then it is indeed a success. But in all the other cases like this, it is simply not a success. So then we put this like this, and then with the function selected, we're going to click on pure, hit compile and save. Check out Cactus Center right now on Steam and Early Access. It's a very fun multiplayer video game, cheaper than the Starbucks coffee. So if you want to have a good time with your friends or strangers, click that link down below, and I appreciate every single one of you, and enjoy the rest of the video. Bye! Then we're going to go into our save one. So for saving the appearance, we're simply going to do save game to slot, and another one is the save game, but then create save game object. So how do we save? Our appearance? Well, we hook this up, and then for the save game class, we're gonna get our appearance here. Now this save game object that we create, we have to promote that to a local variable and call it save game object. Here we go. Then off of the save game object, we're going to drag and type in set head ID. And then the head ID is going to go in here. We're going to double click the cable to put it under here like this. And then after that, so after we basically created a save game object and then we set the head ID on the save game object, then we're going to save it to a slot. So which slot? Well, that's that local variable. So this variable that we just created, that's going to go in here. And the slot name is going to be the same as where we load it from. So that is just going to be appearance. So that's going to go in here. And that is all that has to do. So if we then click on the function output, then we can hook this up here and simply leave it like this. Hit compile, save. There we go. Okay, so now we basically have our data ready, so then we can close our function library. And then if we go ahead and find our, over here under main menu, then we have to find our appearance widget and go to the graph. So whenever we basically play, right, so we hit play, we click here, then we want to see what we had actually selected based off of that save file from earlier. So to do that, we are going to go into the child widget. So we're going to find our appearance item here. And then on the event construct here, what we're going to do is that we're going to get our item ID. And then we're going to type in, right click and type in load appearance. And then off of here where we set the text up basically. So if the appearance loads successfully, that means that we have one item selected. Then we're going to say, is that ID equal? Equal to the item ID of this item. Well, in the case that is true, then we're going to set this item to be selected. There we go. Hit compile and save. Okay, so that is then basically how we determine and how we detect the one that we have actually loaded, right? But then we also need to save it. So whenever we click an item, we need to save that one as our selected item. So over here under set selected, we're then going to do save appearance, which is this little function that we did. So whenever we set an item to selected, then we're going to save the appearance to the ID of whatever button we click. So this is the button we click, and that goes into the save appearance. So now if we hit play, then we go to appearance, then I select our cone head, then we go back and exit the game, then we hit play again. Then we go to appearance, and then we see that cone head is still selected and that the game initialized itself based off of our save file. So if I now click on hard head, then close it again, click on play again, go to appearance, then we see that hard head is the last one that was selected. So now we basically have a system for being able to select which head we want. Now what I see is that we also want to be able to unequip the head. So we're quickly going to add a button with which we can unequip it. So for that, so now we also have to unequip. So for that, we are basically going to go to our data table character customization, appearance items, and then we're going to add a new item, which is going to be the unequip. So for the ID, I'm simply going to call it unequip as an ID here, and then this ID over here, also type in unequip. Now the name is going to be also called unequip, and then it's going to have no static mesh. And this one, we want it to be all the way on top. So that's the first one that we basically want to generate. And then we want to generate our items. So if we now hit save and then hit play, go to appearance, then this is the one that by default we basically want to have. So then we can unequip it. Okay, so now that we have all of our data in order and we can actually select items and basically equip appearance, then we can go ahead and make sure that the character can handle it. So for that, we're going to go back to our Battle Royale level. And then we're going to make sure that the character can initialize itself with the correct data. So first of all, we're going to go into our core folder and then character and then open this guy up. We're going to then go into the viewport and find our bean. So here he is. And then with the mesh selected, we're going to click add. And then what we want to add is a static mesh and we're going to rename it to SM head. So this is our head static mesh. And then this, we're going to put it all the way on top of his head, and we also basically need to anchor it to a bone. But let's preview this first. So we're gonna here attach a head. So let's say that we're gonna do the cone, and then we want to, basically want to attach this to the bone, right? So we're gonna attach it to, what happens if we do it to spline 2? Then yeah, it's super big here. So what about spline 1? No, let's attach it to spline 2. And then we're going to have to scale it again because of our Blender thing. So the scale, we're going to set it to 0.001. Move it up. Oh, that's too big. So scale needs to be 0.01. Here we go. So here we have it. And then we basically need to rotate it and put it on our head. So I'm going to unselect this grid snapping. And then we're going to place it on our bean head like this. So this is what the head would look like. And then this is the hard head. And then the party head. So I'm going to put it up a little bit. And our Viking head. Okay, so that looks good to me. And the reason that we need to do the scaling is, yet again, like I explained in previous things, when we start to parent static meshes to the bones, then, well, the bones in Blender are like 100 times bigger. So if you don't scale it like times 0.01, then it is 100 times bigger than what it is supposed to be. And that is just when you export characters from Blender to Unreal, the bone sizes in Blender are bigger, and that is what causes that issue. If you don't use Blender but some other program, it might be different for you. But just keep that in mind. And also, well, it only occurs when you actually attach these items to the actual skeleton. If you don't attach them to the skeleton, no problem. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to set the default to nothing, just like this, hit compile, save. And then we're going to go into the event graph and set it up so that the character can initialize itself. So for that, we're going to use our begin play event over here. Now we see that the begin play event already has set up health bar. So what we're going to do is drag this to the right, hold S and left click to get a sequence, and then plug this one in here. And then we're going to make a new function here and call it init_appearance, and init standing for initialize. So how do we want to initialize the appearance? Well, we basically want to do that over here off of begin play. But then we know that begin play fires on both the owning client and on the server, since the character exists on the server and the owning client and also on all of the other clients. So we only want to do this on the local version of the character. So for that, we're going to type in is locally controlled. Get this one, and then hold P and left click to get a branch. So if we are locally controlled and we go off of begin play, then we want to basically type here load appearance. And then if we successfully load our appearance, then we want to send this ID to the server, and we then want the server to RepNotify the equipment of the head. So the way that we're going to do that is if we go back to the event graph, we're going to right click, type in custom event, SR update appearance. And then we're going to click here, run on server reliable. Now out of here needs to come our head ID. So we're going to add a string, call it head ID. And then inside of init appearance, we're going to call the SR appearance, this one. And then if we hit compile, save, and then refresh it, then we see that this is the head ID. So this would go into here. So basically on begin play, on the local version of the character, we load our local save game data. If the save game data is found, we then send the ID to the server. Now the server over here is going to then promote the head ID to a variable, and that variable we're going to set it to RepNotify. We're then going to hit compile save. So remember guys, whenever the RepNotify value changes, it's going to execute the automatic function here that is corresponding to the RepNotify. So you can then double click to do the function, and then what we want to do in the function here is that we simply want to get the head ID. We then type in get data table row to get this one, and then the data table is appearance. Now the ID is going to go into here, and then out of the structure here we're going to break and we're going to get our static mesh. So then we drag in our head static mesh, type in set static mesh, hook this up to the row found, hook this one up to this, there we go. Now in case that the row is not found, then we simply want to set our static mesh to nothing. We then hit compile save, and let's go ahead and test this out. So inside of our main menu, if we open that up, we're going to be selecting, let's say the cone head. Then we're going to exit, then we're going to open up our battle royale level and then hit play. And then we see that our bean now spawns with a cone head. So that is nice. And then if we go back to our main menu again, hit play, and then we can select, let's say a Viking head. I think that would be cool. We exit, go back to our battle royale level, hit play, then we see that we have a Viking head. So now what you do have to keep in mind, of course, whenever you now test it with 2 players, so 2 players, listen server, and then hit play, then we see that both of our characters have a Viking head. And the reason that is because, well, both of these characters here, so even though it is 2 separate pie windows, they still read from the same local save file. So whenever you're testing in the editor, then basically both your server and your client read from the same save file. Because yeah, Unreal Engine, it simply doesn't have, for testing purposes like this, it doesn't have 2 separate save files when testing. So since both the server and the client read from the same local save file, you will see that both of them have the same head equipped. So it's a bit difficult to test it like that inside of the editor, but it works, and the head is nice and attached to this guy. So in essence, that is how you do the appearance basically. And then if you were to package your game and then test it in standalone and then have one guy select one head, the other guy select another head, connect these guys together, then they're both going to, on the locally controlled character, pull their own local save file, read from that one, initialize their character with that one, and then this guy here could have a cone head, and this guy over here could then have a Viking head. So guys, here we go. I now started another beam battle royale on another computer, and on that guy I selected the party head, so there he is. So that guy has the party head and I got the Viking head, and all of this works great in multiplayer. So now that you guys understand the system like this, you can expand it to whatever you require for your game. And then you basically now understand how to set up appearance in multiplayer. So there you go guys, that's how you can set up appearance. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that helps out the channel a lot. If you want to mess around with this project yourself, you can download it on our Patreon. Also guys, currently on our marketplace we have Black Friday sale going on, so all of our 17 Unreal Engine multiplayer templates and projects and games and stuff are 50% off, so check that out. It ends on the 3rd of December, so if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. As always guys, I appreciate you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!